a money cycle that traps millions of people for their entire lives. A cycle so normalized, so familiar, so accepted by society that most people never question it, never detect it, never understand how deeply it controls their destiny. It doesn't matter how hard they work, how many hours they put in, how many times they promise that this will be the year things finally change, because the structure of their financial life is built on routines, beliefs, and emotional patterns that keep them looping in the same place over and over again. And until you expose that cycle, until you break it completely, nothing in your life will ever shift in any meaningful way. You will always feel like you're running uphill with weight strapped to your back. You will always feel like you're starting over. You will always feel like money controls you instead of you controlling money. The cycle keeping you poor is not external, it is internal. And breaking it requires a psychological transformation far deeper than simply budgeting or saving or earning a little more. The money cycle keeping you poor begins with reaction, not intention. Poor and middle-class individuals approach money reactively, responding to bills, reacting to emergencies, dealing with consequences, patching holes, solving problems that repeat because they were never addressed at the root. There is no direction, no strategy, no proactive structure. They spend because of emotion. They save only when they feel like it. They invest only when it's convenient. They make decisions out of stress rather than clarity. It becomes a constant cycle of surviving, recovering, collapsing, repeating. And because the cycle never stops, there is never enough time or mental bandwidth to build a new one. This is why poverty and paycheck-to-paycheck living feel like quicksand. Every step forward sinks you deeper because the structure is wrong. Millionaires break this cycle because they build their financial life around intention, not reaction. They direct money instead of responding to it. They create plans, systems, habits, and routines that guide their behavior even when emotions fluctuate. They automate discipline. They structure their spending. They reduce chaos. They build buffers. They make decisions with logic, not impulse. And when the noise of life tries to distract them, they return to structure, not emotion. This psychological shift, from reactive to intentional, is the first break in the poverty cycle. But the money cycle goes even deeper. It continues with emotional decision-making. Poor people use money to soothe emotions, stress, boredom, fear, insecurity, frustration, loneliness. They buy to feel better. They buy to escape. They buy to reward themselves. They buy to avoid discomfort. They buy because they believe they earned it. They buy because they want to feel in control of something, even if it's just a temporary pleasure. This emotional spending empties their pockets, destroys their progress, and keeps them trapped in temporary highs, followed by long-term lows. This is why, when money finally arrives, a bonus, a tax refund, a raise, it disappears instantly. Emotional decisions burn financial opportunity. Wealthy individuals separate emotion from money. They understand that money used emotionally vanishes, while money used strategically multiplies. They make decisions based on priorities, not feelings. They use logic to plan, discipline to execute, and emotion only to visualize the outcome. They don't let fear control their investments. They don't let stress control their spending. They don't let impulse control their future. This emotional neutrality is one of the most powerful tools for breaking the poverty cycle because it stops the self-sabotage most people don't even know they are committing. The next phase of the money cycle keeping people poor is short-term thinking. Poor people think in days, sometimes in weeks, at best in months. Their decisions are about immediate relief. How do I pay this bill right now? How do I survive until Friday? How do I feel better today? Wealthy individuals think in decades. Their decisions are shaped by the long-term consequences. How will this compound in 10 years? How will this position me in 20? What am I building for the next generation? This difference in time perspective is what separates linear growth from exponential growth. A poor mindset trades tomorrow for today. A wealthy mindset chooses discomfort today for freedom tomorrow. The money cycle also continues with income dependency. Poor people rely on a single source of income, their job. If the job disappears, everything collapses. One emergency destroys everything they built. This puts them in a perpetual cycle of fear and fragility. Wealthy individuals break this cycle by building multiple streams of income. investments, businesses, ownership, intellectual property, skills, and systems that generate money even when they're not actively working. They move from dependency to diversity. They move from survival to autonomy. They move from labor-driven income to asset-driven income. And until you break the pattern of depending on one income source, your financial future will always be fragile. Another core component of the money cycle keeping people poor is lack of financial awareness. Most people don't track their spending. They don't know where their money goes. They avoid checking their accounts because they fear the truth. They let financial anxiety dictate their decisions. They rely on guessing instead of measuring. They live in financial fog. Wealthy people break this cycle by pursuing financial clarity, reviewing numbers weekly, tracking spending, planning investments, forecasting goals, running personal audits. They face their money honestly, even when it's uncomfortable, because clarity is the gateway to control, and control is the gateway to wealth. A deeper element in the cycle is low-value routines. Poor people repeat the same habits that keep them stuck: scrolling for hours, binge-watching shows, oversleeping on weekends, drinking excessively, buying impulsively, gossiping, wasting time with unproductive people, avoiding self-development, avoiding skill building. These routines feel normal because everyone around them does the same thing. Wealthy people break this cycle by replacing low-value routines with high-value routines. Reading daily, learning new skills, improving their mind, building businesses, creating systems, studying markets, analyzing opportunities, networking intelligently, and developing habits that compound into powerful results over years. Another phase of the money cycle is social conditioning. The beliefs you inherited, not the ones you chose. You are taught from childhood to obey, conform, follow rules, and seek safety. You are taught that risk is dangerous, that money is stressful, that wanting financial freedom is greedy, that stability is the goal. These beliefs trap you in a life path designed for survival, not abundance. Wealthy individuals break this cycle by questioning everything they were taught. They realize that most people's advice comes from a perspective of fear, not vision. They rebuild their belief system from scratch. They adopt a mindset of ownership, not obedience. They embrace risk intelligently. They redefine success on their own terms. Breaking inherited beliefs is one of the most powerful escapes from generational poverty. The money cycle also includes self-identity limitations. Poor people unconsciously see themselves as struggling, trying, surviving, just getting by. Their identity shapes their habits. Their habits shape their results. Wealthy individuals reshape their identity before the results appear. They see themselves as builders, creators, leaders, owners, problem solvers. They think like people who deserve wealth. They act like people who generate wealth. And because identity dictates behavior, their identity pulls them into a future that matches their beliefs. Another loop that traps people is avoiding discomfort. Poor people avoid discomfort at all costs. Difficult conversations, learning new skills, making sacrifices, changing routines, leaving comfort zones, confronting internal flaws. But avoiding discomfort ensures a lifetime of financial struggle. Wealthy individuals do the opposite. They embrace discomfort. They lean into learning, uncertainty, complexity, discipline, sacrifice, and unfamiliar territory. They know discomfort is the price of transformation. They know comfort is the cost of stagnation. Breaking this loop requires choosing discomfort consciously. The money cycle also thrives on instant gratification, the desire to feel good immediately even at the cost of long-term results. Poor people trade their future for temporary pleasure. Wealthy people trade temporary pleasure for a powerful future. This shift from instant gratification to delayed gratification is one of the strongest predictors of long-term wealth. But the deepest part of the poverty cycle is this: most people never pause long enough to break the cycle. They are too busy surviving to rebuild, too exhausted to reflect, too overwhelmed to strategize, too trapped in routine to create new patterns. Meanwhile, wealthy individuals carve time daily to think, to plan, to question, to adjust, to grow. They create space for transformation. So how do you break the money cycle keeping you poor? You begin by shifting from reaction to intention. You separate emotion from financial decisions. You build long-term thinking into your daily habits. You create multiple income streams. You track your money with clarity. You replace low-value routines with high-value routines. You challenge your inherited beliefs. You upgrade your identity. You embrace discomfort, you reject instant gratification, and above all, you adopt the mindset of a builder, not a survivor. Because the truth is simple. Wealth doesn't begin in your bank account. It begins in your behavior. It begins in your beliefs. It begins in your habits. It begins in your identity. Break the cycle inside yourself, and the cycle outside you will collapse automatically. The money keeping you poor isn't the money you don't have. It's the mindset you haven't replaced yet.